Aging, the transformative journey to wisdom and serenity. Aging. It's the one journey we all share, the silent companion to our existence. Every wrinkle, every gray hair, every passing year whispers the truth we so often resist. Life is fleeting and change is inevitable. Yet, why does this natural progression often fill us with fear, sadness, or even rebellion? How often have you or someone you know sighed, "Where did the time go?" Or confided, "I feel invisible now." It's not just the physical changes that unsettle us. It's what aging represents. The Buddha, in his infinite wisdom, taught, "Change is never painful. Only resistance to change is painful." These words carry a truth so profound yet so often overlooked. Aging becomes a struggle not because of our changing bodies or shifting roles in society, but because of our resistance to embracing this evolution. When children grow distant, careers fade into memories, or society places less value on the elderly, it's easy to feel discarded, unimportant, or forgotten. But what if we've misunderstood this stage of life? What if aging isn't a decline, but an ascent? A sacred opportunity to uncover the deepest truths about ourselves. In Buddhist philosophy, life's final chapters are seen not as endings, but as beginnings. They offer a chance to transcend superficial concerns and delve into the essence of what truly matters. This time can be a transformative journey toward wisdom, spiritual growth, and inner peace. Imagine turning inward to rediscover the treasures buried within: compassion, resilience, and a profound sense of interconnectedness. This journey doesn't have to be one of solitude or regret. It can be a path illuminated by rich stories, timeless teachings, and practical steps to cultivate serenity and purpose. Together, let's explore aging not as a loss, but as a powerful transformation, a chance to reflect, grow, and embrace the fullness of our humanity. If this reflection resonates with you, take the first step today. Watch the full video to uncover the deeper philosophy of aging and learn actionable practices to embrace it with grace. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more insights and inspiration, and share this video with friends and loved ones. Together, let's start a conversation about aging that uplifts and empowers. Your journey is unique, but you are not alone. Let's walk this transformative path together, one step closer to wisdom and serenity. A story of transformation. The seed of discontent. In a quiet, modest home, an elderly man sat by his window. Outside, the world buzzed with life. Children playing, birds chirping, the hum of cars passing by. Inside, however, silence reigned. His days were marked by solitude, punctuated only by fleeting visits from his children. When they came, their time felt hurried, their attention fixed on their phones rather than on him. Each visit was a bittersweet reminder of the closeness they once shared and the distance that now defined their relationships. He would wait for their laughter to echo in his home again, only to find that their departures left a void that grew heavier with every passing day. As their car taillights disappeared down the street, his heart sank a little further. The questions would come, relentless and unyielding, like waves crashing against the shore. Did I not love them enough? Was I too strict? Too lenient? Why do they no longer see me? At night, these thoughts became louder, robbing him of sleep and leaving him grappling with his own self-worth. The silence of his home was no longer peaceful. It was deafening, filled with unspoken regrets and unanswered questions. One evening, as he sat meditating in an attempt to find solace, his restless mind finally stilled, and a thought emerged like a quiet whisper, cutting through the noise. Am I seeking their respect to fill a void within myself? The question lingered, unsettling yet illuminating. It forced him to look inward, beyond his disappointment and longing. This was no longer about his children and their perceived neglect. It was about the emptiness he felt inside, an emptiness he had unknowingly sought to fill through their validation. This single realization, simple yet profound, planted a seed of transformation within him. For the first time, he began to examine the expectations he had placed on his children and the unspoken demands he had carried for years. He reflected on his own life, his triumphs, his mistakes, and the moments he had sought love or approval as a measure of his own worth. He began to see how this pattern had shaped not only his relationships, but also his view of himself. Though the void remained, the edges softened as he contemplated a truth he had long ignored. The fulfillment he sought could not come from others, not even his children. It was something he had to nurture within himself. This realization did not erase the pain, but it gave him the courage to take the first step toward healing. What had begun as a moment of despair became the foundation for an inner journey that would transform his perspective on aging, relationships, and self-love. The seed of discontent, once a source of suffering, was now sprouting the beginnings of understanding and acceptance. And so, his quiet, modest home became a sanctuary not of loneliness, but of growth and reflection. Key lessons and teachings. 1. The mirror of expectations. Isn't it true that we often expect others to give us what we struggle to give ourselves? The man realized his pain stemmed from an unspoken belief. I am their father, they owe me their respect. But does respect truly come as an entitlement, or is it something deeper, something earned and freely given? Zen philosophy teaches us that clinging to expectations creates suffering, likening it to holding onto a rope that burns the hands. A wise teacher once said, "Let go of how life should be and embrace it as it is." These words resonated deeply with the man, who began to see how his expectations of his children were like invisible chains binding him to disappointment. By releasing these expectations, he experienced a profound sense of liberation. He no longer viewed respect as a debt his children owed him, but as a gift that flows naturally when nurtured by love and understanding. This shift in perspective was the first step toward transforming his relationship with himself and with them. 2. The garden of self-reflection. Turning inward, the man confronted questions that were both challenging and enlightening. Have I lived in a way that inspires respect? Have I shown my children the compassion I wish to receive? Or have I merely demanded it from them? These were not moments of self-recrimination, but of courageous self-awareness. As he reflected, he saw both light and shadow in his past. Moments of anger, impatience, and missteps as a parent, juxtaposed with countless sacrifices and acts of unconditional love. Instead of allowing regret to dominate, he embraced the duality of his experience. In accepting both his flaws and virtues, he found balance, a harmony that allowed him to forgive himself. This self-acceptance became a cornerstone of his inner peace, enabling him to meet his present with clarity and grace. 3. The practice of non-attachment. Each evening, the man devoted time to meditation, focusing on the transient nature of life. He would silently repeat a mantra. My children's actions are their own karma. My peace is my responsibility. These words became a lifeline, grounding him in the understanding that he could not control his children's choices or behaviors. How often do we tie our happiness to the actions of others, he wondered. In this realization, he found freedom. By practicing non-attachment, he let go of the weight of unmet expectations. He stopped seeking external validation because he had discovered something far more profound, his own capacity for inner peace. This practice became his refuge, allowing him to navigate life's uncertainties with equanimity. 4. Loving without conditions. One day, while walking through a park, the man observed a young child taking tentative steps, their parents close by, arms outstretched to catch every stumble. The sight stirred a memory of his own children's first steps. In that moment, a revelation dawned on him. Love is not a transaction, it is a gift. He realized that his love for his children had always been unconditional, even if he hadn't expressed it that way. From that day forward, he resolved to let go of expectations and love them freely. When they visited, he greeted them with warmth, cherishing each moment without measuring its length. When they didn't, he sent silent blessings their way, wishing them happiness and peace. In this act of unconditional love, he discovered a joy that was not dependent on anyone else. It arose entirely from within. 5. The ripple effect of inner peace. As the man cultivated peace within himself, it radiated outward in subtle yet powerful ways. His demeanor softened. His once furrowed brow now seemed perpetually at ease. His children, initially unaware of this transformation, eventually began to notice. One evening, his eldest child remarked, "Father, you seem so calm these days. What changed?" With a serene smile, he replied, "I stopped waiting for the world to bring me peace. I found it within myself." These words, spoken without expectation, planted a seed in his children's hearts. Slowly, they began to visit more often, not out of obligation, but from a genuine desire to connect. 6. The wisdom of acceptance. Through this journey, the man came to understand a profound truth. Relationships, like flowers, cannot be forced to bloom. Some of his children remained distant, preoccupied with their own lives. But this no longer troubled him. He found contentment not in what he received, but in what he gave. The act of loving became its own reward, untethered from conditions or outcomes. In accepting the reality of his relationships, he freed himself from the suffering of unmet expectations. This wisdom brought him a deep and abiding peace. He had learned to walk the delicate path of life with an open heart, embracing the joy of giving while releasing the need to receive. 6. The wisdom of acceptance. The man came to understand that relationships, like flowers, cannot be forced to bloom. Each flower unfolds in its own time, responding to the seasons and the care it receives. Forcing it to open before it is ready only damages the delicate petals. This metaphor became a guiding principle in his life as he reflected on his relationships with his children. Some of his children remained distant, preoccupied with their own lives, careers, and families. At first, their detachment felt like rejection, a painful reminder of the growing gap between them. He wrestled with feelings of inadequacy, wondering if he had failed them as a father. But over time, his perspective shifted. Through his journey of self-reflection, he realized that their distance was not necessarily a reflection of a lack of love, but rather the natural course of their individual journeys. Just as he had navigated his own challenges and responsibilities when he was their age, so too were they engrossed in building their own lives. Instead of yearning for their presence or questioning their love, he chose to focus on the love he gave. He began to understand that love at its core is not about reciprocity. It is about generosity. It is not a transaction, but a flow of energy that does not demand a return. He found contentment in simple acts of love, sending them warm wishes in his prayers, leaving thoughtful messages on their birthdays, and cherishing the moments they did share, no matter how brief. He stopped measuring the quality of their relationship by the frequency of their visits or the words they spoke. Instead, he learned to appreciate the bond that existed, even if it wasn't always visible. Acceptance became his sanctuary. He realized that holding on to the past or clinging to expectations only created suffering. By embracing the present as it was, he freed himself from the burden of longing. His heart, once heavy with disappointment, now felt light with the joy of giving without conditions. This wisdom transformed his interactions. When his children visited, he welcomed them with warmth and gratitude, without any trace of resentment. His demeanor was calm, his love steady and unwavering. They noticed the change in him, not as a demand for their attention, but as an invitation to connect on their own terms. Through acceptance, the man discovered a profound peace. he came to see that love, when offered freely, is a source of strength rather than vulnerability. Relationships, like flowers, will bloom when the time is right, and even if they don't, the act of tending to them is a beautiful expression of the heart, deepening the journey. To expand upon this journey and truly grasp its profound implications, we must dive deeper into the lessons it offers, exploring their significance in the context of human relationships and the pursuit of inner peace. Exercising, for instance. What does it truly mean to let go of expectations in a world where relationships are often perceived as transactional? How does one navigate a society that subtly teaches us to measure love and worth through reciprocity, recognition, and validation? These questions, though challenging, lie at the heart of the elderly man's transformation. Imagine a dialogue between the man and a Zen teacher, perhaps one he seeks out in his quest for clarity. "Master," the man might begin, "how can I let go of expectations when my heart aches for my children's love? How do I silence the voice that whispers, 'You deserve more'?" The Zen teacher, sitting calmly under the shade of a tree, might respond with a gentle smile. Imagine holding a delicate flower in your hand. If you clutch it tightly, hoping to possess it, you crush its beauty. But if you hold it lightly, you allow it to thrive. Relationships are much the same. To let go of expectations is not to stop loving, it is to love freely, without the weight of demands. This conversation can serve as a turning point for the man, a moment when he begins to see his yearning not as a weakness, but as an invitation to love more expansively. Now consider the challenge of loving without conditions when the ego craves recognition and reciprocity. Picture the man sitting alone at his kitchen table, writing a letter to one of his children. The letter is an outpouring of gratitude for the joy they brought him in their childhood, filled with memories of laughter and milestones. He does not write to receive a response, but to express his love, pure and unencumbered. These small acts of kindness, sending silent blessings, offering heartfelt gestures, or simply smiling at a neighbor, ripple outward in unseen ways. Over time, his peaceful demeanor begins to transform not just his relationship with his children, but also with his community. The local grocer notices his calm presence, striking up conversations about life's fleeting moments. A young mother in the park, inspired by his serene outlook, seeks his wisdom on parenting. By layering such anecdotes into the narrative, we uncover the interconnectedness of human relationships. The man's journey is no longer just his own. It becomes a universal story of how one person's inner peace can influence the world around them. Philosophical reflections further enrich this tapestry. For example, the teachings of mindfulness remind us that true freedom comes from accepting the impermanence of all things. The man's nightly meditations on the transient nature of life echo this wisdom, helping him detach from the illusion of control. Through these elements, dialogues, reflections, and real-life practices, the text can delve deeper into the intricate dance of attachment, love, and liberation. In doing so, it not only illuminates the man's journey, but also invites readers to embark on their own paths toward inner peace and the profound joy of loving without conditions. Practical steps for inner peace. 1. Reflect without judgment. Begin your journey by looking inward with a compassionate lens. Take a moment to examine the expectations you hold of yourself, of others, and of life. Ask yourself, are these expectations serving me, or are they creating unnecessary suffering? Reflection is not about blaming yourself or others, it's about understanding. For instance, if you feel hurt by someone's actions, pause and explore why. Is it because they violated a shared understanding, or because they didn't meet an unspoken expectation? By identifying the root of your emotions, you can respond with clarity rather than reaction. Equally important is the practice of self-compassion. Embrace both your flaws and virtues, understanding that being human means being imperfect. Treat yourself as you would a dear friend, with kindness, patience, and encouragement. This balance creates a foundation for growth and inner peace. 2. Let go of attachment. Attachment often ties our happiness to external factors, other people's opinions, actions, or approval. Release the need for others' validation by remembering a powerful truth. Their actions reflect their journey, not your worth. This doesn't mean detaching from people or becoming indifferent. Instead, it's about recognizing that your peace and self-worth come from within. Visualize releasing the weight of unmet expectations, like letting go of a balloon. Feel the lightness that follows as you free yourself from the burden of seeking fulfillment from external sources. 3. Practice loving kindness. Love, when given freely, has the power to transform both the giver and the receiver. Make it a daily practice to offer love without strings attached. This could be through small acts of kindness, words of encouragement, or even silent blessings. For example, during your quiet moments, silently wish happiness and peace to someone you care about, or even to someone who has hurt you. This practice, known as metta or loving kindness meditation, softens your heart and fosters a sense of connection to others. Over time, this habit cultivates an expansive love that requires nothing in return but enriches your soul. 4. Cultivate inner peace. Inner peace doesn't happen by chance. It requires intentional effort. Dedicate a few minutes each day to mindfulness or meditation practices. Sit quietly, focus on your breath, and allow your thoughts to come and go without judgment. As you cultivate stillness, you'll discover a profound strength within yourself, a calm that remains unshaken by external circumstances. In this state, even challenges feel less overwhelming because you've built a reservoir of resilience. Incorporate mindfulness into your daily routine by being present in everyday tasks. Whether it's sipping your morning tea, walking in nature, or listening to a loved one, fully immerse yourself in the moment. This practice grounds you and deepens your appreciation for life's simple joys. 5. Lead by example. Inner peace is contagious. When you live with kindness, patience, and wisdom, those around you take notice. Without saying a word, your actions become a quiet invitation for others to reflect on their own lives. Think of moments when your calm demeanor diffused tension, or when your compassion inspired someone to act with kindness. These instances demonstrate the ripple effect of living authentically and peacefully, and peaceful actions inflict pain on the physical world around us. It's not surprising that those who commission these acts of violence against others find fewer opportunities. Lead not by imposing your beliefs, but by embodying them. Let your life be a testament to the power of inner peace, an example that respect, love, and understanding flow naturally when we choose to live in harmony with ourselves and others. Closing thoughts. By embracing these practical steps, you can embark on a journey toward profound inner peace, transforming not only your own life, but also the lives of those you touch. Timeless Buddhist wisdom. 1. The illusion of control. One of life's greatest struggles is the illusion that we can control others, their thoughts, feelings, and actions. This desire for control often arises from a place of love or fear, but it inevitably leads to suffering. People act based on their own experiences, perspectives, and karma, shaped by countless factors beyond our reach. Buddhist teachings remind us to accept this truth with humility. Instead of trying to mold others to fit our expectations, we can choose to honor their autonomy and journey. This shift in perspective doesn't mean giving up on meaningful relationships. It means allowing those relationships to unfold naturally, free from the weight of control. Imagine how much lighter life becomes when we relinquish the need to direct others and instead focus on our own actions and responses. Acceptance, not control, is the gateway to peace. 2. Releasing expectations. Expectations, though seemingly harmless, can tether us to cycles of disappointment and hurt. They are fragile threads we weave around others, hoping they will act, think, or feel in ways that align with our desires. But when these threads inevitably snap, we are left grappling with unmet hopes. Letting go of expectations is not about lowering standards or abandoning connections. It's about freeing ourselves and others to experience relationships as they truly are. When we release these mental constraints, love and connection can flow freely, untainted by the need for reciprocation or validation. Love is not masked with fragility. It's not placed in a box. It's not safe from danger or disappointment. Reflect on moments when you felt hurt by unmet expectations. What if instead of holding on to them, you chose to release them? Imagine the freedom of loving without strings attached, embracing relationships with openness and grace. 3. Non-attachment and joy. Non-attachment is often misunderstood as indifference, but in Buddhist philosophy it is the opposite. Non-attachment is a practice of deep engagement with life, free from clinging or aversion. It is the freedom to experience joy, even amidst challenges, because your sense of self and happiness is not tethered to external circumstances. For example, imagine a parent watching their child grow and make choices, some that bring pride, others that evoke worry. Non-attachment allows the parent to love and support their child without trying to dictate their path. This freedom fosters deeper connection and joy, unhindered by the weight of control. By practicing non-attachment, you can embrace life's highs and lows with equanimity, finding contentment within yourself. This inner stability becomes a source of unshakable joy, a beacon in a world of constant change. 4. Loving unconditionally. Unconditional love is perhaps the most transformative of all emotions. When we give love freely, expecting nothing in return, we create a space for healing, understanding, and connection. This love is not about overlooking flaws or enabling harm. It is about seeing others as they are and choosing to offer kindness and compassion. Consider a simple act of unconditional love, helping a stranger without expecting thanks or recognition. The act itself is fulfilling, a reminder of our shared humanity. When applied to close relationships, this kind of love nurtures trust and deepens bonds. The giver and receiver are equally transformed by unconditional love. It softens barriers, mends wounds, and creates an environment where growth and connection thrive. 5. Inner peace as a beacon. Inner peace is not just a personal refuge, it is a powerful force that radiates outward. When you cultivate serenity within, it influences your actions, words, and energy. Those around you are drawn to your calm demeanor, often finding inspiration in your ability to remain centered amidst life's turbulence. You are an inspirational leader. Imagine someone who has achieved profound inner peace. A grandparent who exudes wisdom and patience, or a teacher who guides with compassion. Their presence is magnetic, not because they impose their beliefs, but because they embody them. By prioritizing inner peace, you not only transform your own life, but also inspire others to seek their own serenity. This ripple effect creates a world where peace, kindness, and understanding flourish. Through these timeless Buddhist teachings, we are reminded that true freedom and joy lie not in controlling the world around us, but in transforming the world within us. By embracing these principles, we open the door to a life of profound connection, fulfillment, and peace. Conclusion: becoming the source of light. End of chapter 12. The elderly man's journey is a profound reminder that true transformation begins not with the world around us, but within ourselves. His story is not one of grand external changes, but of a quiet revolution in his heart and mind. A revolution that turned suffering into wisdom, disappointment into understanding, and longing into love. Peace, love, and respect are not things we can demand or expect from others. They are gifts we nurture within ourselves. Like a gardener tending to a barren field, the man cultivated these qualities through self-reflection, acceptance, and the practice of unconditional love. His growth illuminated a path not only for himself, but for those around him, proving that inner transformation has the power to ripple outward in ways we cannot always see. The teachings of Zen and Buddhism became his guideposts, showing him how to navigate life's inevitable challenges with grace. They taught him to let go of the illusion of control, release the burden of expectations, and embrace the freedom of non-attachment. In doing so, he emerged not as someone hardened by life's storms, but as someone softened by their wisdom. Stoicism has taught us simplicity because it speaks of the striving for beauty. Striving for beauty. As you reflect on this story, take a moment to turn inward. Ask yourself, what storm within me needs calming? Perhaps it is the storm of unmet expectations, unresolved regrets, or a lingering ache for validation. Whatever it may be, remember that the first step toward peace is acknowledgement. By facing your inner storms with honesty and compassion, you begin the process of transformation. Then ask, what light within me is waiting to shine? Each of us carries a unique light, our capacity for love, kindness, and understanding, that is often obscured by the weight of daily struggles. By clearing away the clouds of doubt and fear, you allow your light to shine brightly, not only for yourself, but for others who may be navigating their own darkness. The elderly man's story is an invitation, a gentle call to action. May you find the courage to embark on your own journey of self-discovery and the serenity to weather life's inevitable storms. In doing so, may you become a beacon of peace and compassion, a source of light that brightens the lives of those around you and illuminates the path for others to follow.